So the topic that my group dealt with was jobs specifically, and impacts to this area in Oakland. And we actually had a really good discussion about the types of ways that government can help folks with jobs. We had a long list, and I'll run through the whole list, and then I'll tell you what the top 3 for everybody was. It was training, but the training was very specific. It has to be tailored to anticipated market opportunities. So that's actually an interesting way to look at training. I think generally when we talk about training, we just leave it open-ended, but training tailored towards specific market opportunities. Number 2, income and asset building. 3, decent jobs in community for all ages, youth and adults, and aging as well. Unemployment, underemployment, this notion that more employers are switching people from full-time jobs to part-time jobs as a way for them to save money and make money, but it directly impacts the ability of families to be able to afford things in their home. Number 6, local hiring policy, strengthen them for the city. Number 7, public-private partnerships to get youth job ready. And the issue there is that a lot of our kids come out of college, come out of high school, and basically they don't have the experience that they need to have to start in a workplace right away. And so there needs to be more consideration given to how we're getting our youth ready to be employed. Labor peace, labor conditions, wages, health, etc. Number 10, city negotiation of residential hiring agreements with developers and businesses. Number 11, background checks as exclusion to employment, and specifically there the group was talking about the fact that there are many folks who can work but are barred from employment because of the question about whether or not they'll be able to pass their background checks. And so it's a way that we continue to have people unemployed in a particular community because we use this as a barrier to employment. And number 12, community benefit agreements. And the top 3 for the group were training, again, with the specific focus that when we talk about training, it should be tailored to the opportunities that exist in this community so that people get trained in the right things rather than the wrong things. Number 2 was local hiring policies should be strengthened. And really, the top vote getter was community benefit agreements. And as a group, the consensus was that a community benefit agreement could actually cover the rest of this. It could actually incorporate many of the items that we covered, and if the city was able to negotiate strong community benefit agreements with developers and with private businesses that we have partnerships with, then we will get some of these benefits out of that. So that was the discussion that occurred.
Thank you. Okay. Reagan, you want to come and do public safety?
I always have OPD join me because it is a partnership between the community and the police department. So this is Assistant Chief Howard Jordan. All right, so you get to hold the sign.
Van, also known as Van.
Okay, he's holding the sign for us. So in terms of our top 3 priorities, we had police abuse was our top priority. Improve relationships with OPD, meaning building trust, actually was our 3rd, and our 2nd one was senior safety. Now in terms of solutions, what individuals in our group talked about was for senior safety, crosswalks and lighting. There's actually a task force. Christine Calabrese from the city is here, and so I'm going to match people up with that. Newsletters, positive media. There's a lot of things that are happening that are really good in Oakland, but people don't know about it. The other thing is positive dialogues between the police and the community. Code 33, which is a program that occurred at Castlemont, repeating that. The chief of police to address on a regular basis police abuse. Mobilization, again, around positive media and better publicity of community resources like NCPCs. I encourage everyone that's here today, there are tons of resources in this room in terms of community policing, neighborhood involvement. Jackie Long and Joe DeVries, who are over there, if you guys could raise your hand. If you are not part of a neighborhood crime prevention council, you need to get involved today, and this is a lady, and this man over here can help you do that. With CORE, that's another resource. It's free training for emergency preparedness with the Oakland Fire Department. There are resources for that as well. So I encourage you to get involved. If we're going to lower the crime rate in this district, we have to work together to be able to do that.
Thank you. And what we do with these, I forgot to say this, is if you have email, please make sure you gave it to us. We're going to type all of these recommendations out, and we're going to email them to you. We're also going to post them on the mayor's website, and we're going to take the recommendations from this city and this city district and West Oakland, and we're going to create some task forces to do follow-up based on them, because you're the first two. Who wants to go next?
Again, my name is Larry Gallegos. We had the smaller Spanish breakout group, but it should have been aptly renamed as the School Concerns Group, because the priority in terms of the overall group's preference was addressing issues related to CCPA. So there were a number of questions that were asked in terms of how can we better protect our school resources. If there are budget cuts, how do we prioritize those cuts? Some of the specific concerns or questions, as I mentioned, were mostly surrounding budget cuts. An interesting story was that a number of the families that participated in this smaller group expressed that in prior years back, there were a number of issues that didn't seem to get resolved. And the good news is that they're much more happier now with the state of the school and how it's progressing. So they see that as a positive. So some of the specific concerns were, if there are cuts, what are the school options? How do we prioritize those types of cuts? Second page, what about after-school programs? A number of the families mentioned that there seemed to be less number of after-school activities for their youth to be involved in. So that sort of correlates to the different types of activities that the students can get involved in, and they're concerned about that. Also, how as a city can we be part of the regional, state, and federal making process? And that's more or less addressing the funding issue. How do we tap into those resources? And how can we locally improve our job situation, which probably could have been in another breakout group, but at least some of the concerns were the same. Third, if we're willing to take less funding, how do we go ahead and do so by not impacting other schools? So at least it sounded like the group was starting to think about, well, if we need to take cuts, how do we take cuts without impacting other schools in the district as well? And another priority for them was stopping youth violence. So again, relating and overlapping with some of the other breakout groups. And then also getting Oakland families more involved with the youth programs. How do they do that? There seemed to be an overarching concern about the after-school programs. But the overwhelming majority of their concerns seem to just circulate around CCPA and specific, Coliseum College Preparatory Academy. So there's smaller academies within this school, and so a number of the participants specifically have their children here. And so their question was, well, how do we get the school district to continue supporting this school? And so this seemed to be their overarching, highest priority item on their list. And so that was pretty much it, and then we summarized it on the bottom in terms of how they ranked. That's it.
And I'm going to report out from the Education Working Group. We had a really wonderful group with brilliant people and lots of ideas. I just wanted to say a quick thing about translation. Si hay gente aquí en el público que solo hablan español, quiero asegurar que recibieron los equipos, los audífonos que están enfrente, porque hay un hombre aquí que está traduciendo todo. Okay, hay los equipos enfrente. Okay, so we did a big brainstorm. We came up with 14 things that we thought the mayor potentially could work on in relation to education. So one was parent involvement. Another was cooperation between youth service agencies. Another was really having the city get involved with the district's effort to establish full-service community schools, meaning schools that are really taking on the well-being of students in a broad way. And that's a district initiative that's underway. And then the most popular was how to the mayor getting involved in everything she can do to bring more money into the schools, and then additionally literacy and specifically adult literacy, comprehensive early childhood services, getting people who don't even think they can, really getting them to volunteer in the schools, making sure that there are internship opportunities for youth, reducing the dropout rate, limiting class size, making sure there's elective classes, making sure there's enough support for teachers and school staff in general, and providing after-school programs and safe places for kids to study. So that was the brainstorm, but we focused really specifically on the city participation in the full-service community school effort and getting money into the schools. So we brainstormed what we thought you could do related to getting money into the schools, and hopefully we aren't too far off base. So some ideas were, one, creating a general awareness campaign about the problems in school budgets that they're facing right now. And then there were really three other areas. So one was fundraising, like private fundraising, and that could be mayor-led outreach to foundations and corporations that could give, as well as supporting site-based fundraising for high-need schools, or doing a general school fundraiser, but the mayor would then use her influence to get the right people there who could actually give a lot. And then there's taxation. So there could be local taxes, like creative taxation of foreclosed and abandoned properties, where we might be able to tax banks, and lending her support to local property taxes, and then as well as advocating hard for the statewide taxes that help the schools out. And then there's improving overall economic health, which could include bringing large retail to increase revenues here. And then really one last effort was around the lobbying in Sacramento for debt relief. The district is in debt, and we're not the only one, so could there be work with other mayors to do debt forgiveness?
And my daughter, who is now working for Sandra, are working on a bill to try to get the state to take responsibility for the debt that they racked up while they controlled the schools. When this school district was taken over, it was somewhere, people argue, between $20 and $30 million in debt. When the state left us, we were over $100 million in debt. State shouldn't be able to take over our schools and leave them in worse shape.
So then we had a whole other brainstorm session, particularly around what the city can do to help the districts push for full-service community schools. And here's the brainstorm. So we talked about providing mentoring programs at schools, but then, and also after-school programs and the collaboration with Parks and Rec. All of that seemed important, as well as doing work to ensure that the mentoring and the city-sponsored activities that happen at the schools, that they're really culturally responsive, that the adults that are involved actually understand the young people that they're working with, and that the programs are really high quality and meet the needs of those students. And then combined asset mapping effort, looking at what does the city own, what does the school district own, and making sure that all goes together. And what else? Safe and ample public transit for youth, and getting city council members to be really present at their schools. Thanks.